Welcome, ladies. I'm Sherry Harmel, career and life coach, as well as the founder of The Real You. And today we're going to talk about time. And I have titled this episode, I Don't Have Enough Time. Well, in a few weeks, we'll be talking about time in one of the sessions that are in the Recapture Your Joie de Vie course. But I also wanted to share a bit of this conversation with you today. So, how many times a day or a week do you say to someone, I just don't have enough time? How often do you say to yourself that all the projects and the dreams you have would be happening if you just had more time? What's so interesting about time is that for our day to day tasks, we often feel we don't have enough time. And yet, when it comes to our dreams, we tend to think we have an infinite amount of time. Well, as shocking as it sounds, everyone has 24 hours every day or 168 hours a week. And today I want to talk about how the amount of time you have isn't the problem. It's how you use those hours, those minutes, those seconds. I recently heard this story on a podcast and I want to share it with you. A man got up early every day to pick a flower and place it on his wife's grave. One day, his grandson went with him. The grandson told his grandfather how much he admired him for making the time to do that every day. The grandfather's response, I just wish I had picked a flower and given it to your grandma every day when she was alive. She would have loved that. A very touching story that also makes us think about what will we regret. So let me ask you, if nothing changes in your life and time just passes, in 10, 20, or 30 years, what will you regret not doing? Could it be spending too much time with the wrong people and too little time with the right people? This is a question of how you spend your time, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Could it be that you not speaking up, not saying what you need to say? This applies to whether speaking up and saying what you need to say is at work or to your partner, your family, or even more important, what is it that you are not saying to yourself? Or could it be that you'll regret not having listened to your intuition? Well, I have learned that your intuition is brilliant. Your intuition knows if you need to be brave and do something to shake up your life. It's your logical brain or lizard brain that I talked about in a few podcasts ago that talks you out of it and negates your intuition. I'm going to share with you a silly but poignant story about intuition. Well, a few weeks ago, I shared that I signed up for a dating program. It's called It's Just Lunch because my intuition had told me to stop whining about not having a significant partner in my life and to get going. Well, I had my first date. It was a Zoom date. The guy on the screen thoroughly enjoyed talking about himself, so I had plenty of time for my mind to wander. First, my intuition said to me, I think I've met this guy before because he looks really familiar. And a few more minutes went by. He's still talking. And my intuition now said, this guy looks exactly like your cousin Keith when he was younger. Well, I almost laughed out loud on the call because that idea sounded absolutely, completely ridiculous. Well, 75 minutes into the call, I kind of broke in and asked him where he was living, and he told me. And then I shared that, that's really interesting, but my father's family all comes from that area. And what did we find out? We are cousins. No wonder the guy looked familiar. No wonder he looks like my cousin Keith. He's my cousin. I had a huge laugh. So did he, thank heavens. What are the chances? Truly, I shared this with my son, and as he said, you just can't make this up. But then I was completely amazed by the brilliance of my intuition. Now, I hope my online dating experience makes you laugh, but the point of this story is that your intuitive self is much more aware, enlightened, and brilliant than you might think. So please make a commitment to listen to it. This podcast is about your time. And now I want to invite you to be open to looking at your time differently. The first step to doing that is I want you to make a time chart of your entire week. Now, you can do this pen and paper, you could do this in Excel, whatever's easiest for you. You've got 168 hours. We're taking it week by week and break those hours down into, list out the hours, but also break it down into 15-minute or 30-minute time slots. That's a good way of kind of seeing what's going on. Once you've made the chart, you'll have spaces in the chart to add what you're doing at the various times. And it's really important that you be specific. So, week 1, keep track of everything you're doing and for how long. When did you sleep? When did you read? When did you work? What were you working on? Sometimes we use the word work, like I work from 9 to 5, and actually I was working bits and pieces throughout that 9 to 5. So be very specific. Write in time that you're spending with your children. What are you doing? Time that you're spending with your partner. Exercise, grooming, cleaning, all of it. Now, what you're going to get at the end of an entire week is a real good shot of how you are spending your time. This idea comes from Laura Vanderkam, if I'm pronouncing it right. She wrote a book many years ago called 168 Hours. You have more time than you think. And in her research for the book, Laura discovered a few important items that I'll share with you. First, people sleep much more than they thought they did, and they work much less. Laura also discovered that there wasn't a huge difference in quality of time or quality time spent with children between the stay-at-home mothers and those that worked outside the home. The biggest difference between those two groups were that stay-at-home mothers had cleaner houses, or at least they spent more time cleaning their houses. But why do I want you to do this activity? This is how, as I said, you will see where and how you are currently spending your time. Now, after you see that for the whole week, what's going to happen is you will analyze your time and you will see the changes that you need to make in order to have the life that you want. Now, I've done this exercise with several of my clients. And here are some of the important takeaways from the women who have completed this exercise. Outsource tasks that are easily solvable in someone else's occupation. This is super important if you're interested in starting a business. Yes, as an entrepreneur, you'll have to wear all hats, not just the CEO hat, but what tasks can go off your time chart? What can you hire someone else to do? Now, I'm not a social media expert, and I never will be, because A, I don't like it. And maybe more important, I have no design skills. So what did I do? I hired 2 gals who are just fabulous, who know the world of social media, are good at design, they're good at that world, and they have the time to keep up with the daily changes. Facebook changes daily. So that's number 1. Number 2 is learn to say no. So ask yourself, are you saying yes to help other people out, which is actually to the detriment of your own needs and your own happiness? There are just some people in the world who like to ask others to do things that they just don't want to do. That's at work. It's also can be friends. This is very different from hiring someone to do something that I talked about in the first session or first section. But really guard your time, honor your time, and ask yourself, are you saying yes when you should be saying no? Number 3, schedule in time for your dreams. This is time for you and you alone. You need time to create. You need time to envision new ideas or new ways of doing things, even new people that you need to connect with. Ladies, don't wait. It will never be the perfect time for your dreams. Let me ask, what will you regret not doing or trying 10, 20, 30 years from now? Now you need this uninterrupted, quiet time to be CEO of your life. Maybe you want to start a business. What kind of business do you want to start? Does the business idea align with your values and your life goals? Is there a need in the market for your ideas? What are the options you haven't thought of yet? This CEO way of thinking requires quiet and time. So put in at least an hour or two of that quiet time, that creative time into your schedule each week. Last, the advice or takeaway from the gals who have gone through this is to spend time with the special people in your life. Who are the people you give most of your time to? Is it those people most important to you? And what often happens is that people want solid relationships with those they love, and yet they spend the least amount of time with them. And as women, we are all natural nurturers, and consequently, we often give away our time too easily. So again, learn to guard your time, cherish your time. Now, those were the top takeaways from a few women I have coached. Yours might be different, but I really hope this gets you thinking about your time in a new way. And let me leave you with one last idea that I'm going to be sharing with my ladies in Recapture Your Joie de Vie course. This week, pretend your time is like a jar full of coins worth a total of $168. That's equivalent to the number of hours you have this week. Imagine handing over coins and dollars to people and tasks that don't really matter to you. Kind of makes you panic, right? Now, imagine that you lay out so many dimes, quarters, and dollars to the tasks and people that really do matter to you. And then if you have any coins left in the jar, that's the only time that you have available for things that don't matter to you. Feels completely different, doesn't it? Well, you and you alone are in control of your time. And change is always possible, regardless of our age. I just don't want you to have any regrets. Life is too short. Time isn't unlimited, even though we try to convince ourselves it is. Therefore, it's your turn to ask yourself, in 10 years, what will I regret not doing? What about 20 or 30 years? In the next few months, I'll be announcing my new course, which is currently titled, Design Your Next Chapter Business. And this mastermind course will be perfect for any of you who are ready to ditch corporate and start a business. More information will be coming, but if you're interested or you have some questions, just message me on LinkedIn or Facebook or send me an email. Truly, I'd love to hear from you. As always, I want to thank you for listening and being on this journey with me. And if you liked this podcast, please subscribe and write me a review because reviews do matter. Bye for now. A biento.